I, 29 female, have an ex, 34 male, Richard. It's been 3 years since we separated due to him being abusive and cheating. But we are not divorced, as divorce is expensive in my country, and whenever I apply for divorce, Richard insists on meditation. So divorce is not granted as one of us tries to save the marriage. He lives with his mistress, and they have a kid together that was conceived when we were still together. Due to both of them harassing and abusing me, I have a restraining order against both of them. My employer is aware of all of this, as the utility company my ex works for supplies the buildings their offices are at, one of the major suppliers in the country. Due to restrictions, everyone is currently working from home with a few days in the office. Richard decided to show up at my work with his kid and demanded to see me for child support money, since we are still legally married. As my employer is aware of the situation, the reception refused to tell him if I'm at the office or not. I was, and asked Richard to leave. Richard did not, and security was called. As he was with his child, security couldn't use force to remove Richard, so reception threatened to call the utility company he works for. Richard didn't believe the reception can do that, so long story short, him and his mistress were fired with immediate effect, as Richard showing up at my work has been seen as gross misconduct, and they discovered Richard was his mistress's boss. Apparently his employer didn't know they were together, and it's strictly forbidden to have a relationship with someone who is directly employed by you. The utility company apologized for Richard's actions and gave a considerable discount for their services to make sure the news of what happened wouldn't spread. Since they were fired, I'm getting calls from unknown numbers of various Richards/Mistress family members and friends saying I'm responsible for it and just a jealous a-hole for getting them fired to get Richard back. We still have some friends in common, and they believe him getting fired and losing the only source of income they have is too harsh, and I should have prevented that, /shouldn't have spoken in the beginning about what happened. Am I the a-hole? Now the top comments. People blaming you for their losing both sources of income are ignoring the fact that they chose to conduct an unethical relationship, dating someone in your line of reporting, to say nothing of the affair, in the workplace. They're also ignoring the fact that he showed up to your place of employment to pick a fight, which could have had a negative impact on your employment. What employer wants employees' personal issues to seek them out and demand their attention during the workdays as though there is no other time available? Not the a-hole. Now please tell me how this child support BS works. OP definitely needs legal help. Someone who can point out how many times Richard has pretended to want to reconcile. How many 6-month mediations will judges grant? It's already too many. Also, the lawyer needs to get info from OP's employer for the trouble Richard caused at her employment. He needs to line up the paper trail of proof and shove it in front of the judge so that the judge can't ignore it. It shouldn't be hard to prove that Richard has no interest in reconciling. The thing is that if a plaintiff, OP, says something, the judge can overlook it if he chooses. If a lawyer presents the same thing, the judge has to look at it. As far as OP's original question, how could she possibly be any kind of a-hole? Richard went to a business and raised a ruckus. That business had to call security. That incident led to his professional misconduct and his own job being revealed. OP had zero presence in any of that. It was all just the consequences of his own crappy actions. It's really awful that people believe Richard's lies and not OP. I hope a lawyer can help and cause a legal judgment that might help her get past and rise above it all. But the people who believed Richard over her don't deserve her consideration ever again. Update. His family beliefs are not normal for the country, and I'm pretty sure they'd change if the situation would be the other way around. My boss is also incredibly frustrated with the situation, so he gave me contacts of his friend who happens to be a family lawyer who agreed to help me out at a discounted rate, as he owes my boss a few favors. He sees why courts take that long and will try his best to make sure divorce is granted. He also works as no win, no fee, and believes we can win this case and get Richard to cover outstanding fees. And most importantly, no, I have not been paying child support to him, and was not instructed to. The bit of claiming the child is mine and his mistress is a surrogate can be a bit complicated, but Mr. Lawyer, who I now owe a beer, said courts can't make me pay or accept it since there's no evidence of any agreement. I, 34 female, lost my husband 8 weeks ago. He had cancer and it got treated, then it came back. It was and still is so devastating. I'm trying to stay collected and welcoming to all the supportive family members who come to offer help, despite my constant change in mood due to grief. My sister is the most supportive one. although her husband would act inappropriately sometimes, especially after he told me after the funeral that now I'm burden-free and can live my life, given I was my husband's sole carer. I tried to let go of these comments, thinking he didn't know better. He, my sister, and my family came to visit last week. They cooked dinner for me and kept me company for a bit. After dinner, my brother-in-law asked for a minute with me inside the kitchen. He started telling about a coworker of his who's single, then went on to list everything good about him. I was confused as to why he was telling me all of that. He then reached out for his pants pocket and pulled out a piece of paper with his coworker's phone number on it, telling me to give him a call sometime. I was floored. I couldn't really tell if he was joking or what, but he looked serious and kept insisting I take the number. I lost it. I just started yelling at him that my husband just died and he was out of his mind to try to hook me up with a coworker of his. He tried to explain that it wasn't like that and that he was just offering me something helpful, but I didn't know what he meant. I called him disrespectful, then yelled at him to get out of my house. My sister and the others ran into the kitchen, not knowing what was going on. I told them, then pressured him to leave my house. But my sister asked that I calm down, but I couldn't. He left, then my sister left quietly. After I'd calmed down, I sat with my family, and they said I was right in that what he did was not okay. But I needed to keep in mind that he and my sister helped so much by cooking for me, comforting me, and doing so much for me in these difficult times. So I shouldn't have reacted like that and could have been a little more considerate and graceful. They said kicking him out was too much and I should call him later and talk things out, so I don't ruin my relationship with him and possibly my sister. It's been days and I haven't called, and my sister hasn't visited or called, which means she is upset with me, and now I'm beginning to think they're most likely hurt because I acted ungrateful after everything they've done for me. Now the top comments. Not the a-hole. He was clueless and cold and totally lacked empathy. Grief makes us extremely sensible, so of course his rudeness was extra painful. This is where, if you want, there is room to mend the relationship. If you want. You can call your sister and say that you appreciate everything they have done to support you since your husband's death, but that your brother-in-law's offer was too soon and misguided, and that in your grief, your reaction was amplified. If he is willing to apologize for his lack of tact, you can apologize for the force of your reaction. You did not overreact. I think he should be the one to make a first gesture towards reconciliation, but he has proven he lacks completely in compassion and sense. So, if you feel like it, this could be a way to move past this. Not the a-hole. I'm autistic and know this is a bad idea. Normally, I have a hard time understanding facial expressions and body language, but grief is a pretty obvious expression and I usually don't miss it. This guy was planning a game called I'm Only Trying to Help, where he offers an unhelpful or offensive solution to a problem. However, you didn't ask for help. When the help is offensive and rejected, the payoff is confusion and attention for the guy and anger for you. The easy solution is to just not play and not give the sister's husband the attention and confusing rejection he wants. I'm sorry this happened to you, and your sister's husband needs to stop using you to get his attention needs met. That's something your sister and his therapist need to do. I suggest reading a book called Games People Play by Eric Byrne MD to help learn about game players and what to do with them. I, 28 male, have been with my wife, Rebecca, 29 female, for 4 years. Rebecca comes from a very religious family and we have hidden a lot of aspects about our marriage. We have some contact with them and only see them on holidays and special occasions, like weddings or baby showers. One of the biggest things they disapprove of was not having our wedding in a church. It was such a big deal that we now hide aspects of our marriage, like the fact we are going to be child-free. One thing the family does not know about is that Rebecca and I have an open marriage and have had an open relationship ever since we started dating. So I was meeting up with another girl at the bar a few days ago. It was going well and I didn't notice anything strange. Well, today we went to Rebecca's sister's baby shower. The large baby shower was cancelled since the play, so it really was dinner with her family. We get there and everyone is glaring daggers at me. The whole thing is tense until we get to the slideshow, on her sister showing pictures of the nursery and other baby stuff. In the slideshow, there was a picture of me with the girl at the bar. It wasn't an innocent picture, and looking at it, everyone would think I was cheating. The whole family starts yelling at me and calling me a cheater, and how dare I do this to Rebecca. I look at Rebecca for help, but she just stays quiet. I try to get them to calm down, but nothing is working. So I just yell out, "Rebecca and I have an open marriage." This causes everyone to start freaking out even more, and we quickly leave. I'm in the car with Rebecca, and she starts to yell at me about how could I tell her family that I completely betrayed her trust, and this is probably going to ruin her relationship with the family. I'm angry now and say, "So what? You would rather make me out to be a cheater than tell the truth?" The argument continues for the rest of the car ride, and she won't talk to me anymore. I am sleeping on the couch. Now the top comments. Not the a-hole. First off, her family inserted a picture of you and your significant other into a baby shower slideshow. Before even addressing your wife, that is next level effed up. The family set you up for full-on shaming and ridicule at a baby shower. It's one thing to confront you one-on-one, quite another to publicly shame you like that. So F her family. On your wife, I get it. She panicked, didn't know how to respond, and didn't want to get angry mob of a-holes to turn on her. But there is no way, if I were her, after the initial shock, that I would ever leave my life to be pillared and shamed by my family. Nope. Certainly wouldn't be making her couch surf either. She messed up big time. You are not the a-hole. You are so not the a-hole. Her family wins that dishonor, and she's right behind them. I know your inbox is getting blown up, and you might not see this, but all the love to you, dude. I'm poly myself and have been involved in open marriages, etc. It was fun, our kids all played together and we all hung out. Then I got to have sex with her husband. But man, people hate it. I've been called homewrecker and all this crap when she is right there, has her own boyfriends. I get called a slut and all sorts of things. It can be difficult to have an open marriage or be poly. So many people don't get it. They think it's cheating or just an excuse to sleep around, that you aren't in love with your partner. This idea that monogamy is the only way to love is bullcrap. Monogamy works for some people. For many of us, it doesn't. I'll tell you what, the healthiest and best relationships I had were poly/open. The trust, the communication. I never felt as loved as I did in those relationships. All the power and love to you. And if I were in your shoes, I would be rethinking the marriage if your wife didn't backpedal and fix her reaction. It may be acceptable that she just had a knee-jerk reaction out of embarrassment, but she needs to fix it and tell the truth. Not the a-hole. I'm a mother of a 24-year-old daughter, Christine. Christine moved back to our hometown after obtaining her college degree and met her current boyfriend, Simon, 30. I am not a big fan of Simon, but we're civil enough to be around each other. The other day, I called Christine to invite her to lunch, and she agreed to come. Unbeknownst to me, she brought Simon with her. I was slightly bothered, but only since I was looking for an ordinary mother-daughter lunch to catch up with stuff. I welcomed her and Simon, and as far as ordering food, I ordered the usual for Christine, but Simon went over the menu and picked many stuff, including a drink. Now, this didn't bother me because I figured that he would be paying for his stuff, but apparently, this was not the case. The bill came, and I told Simon and Christine that I was only paying for myself and Christine. Simon asked why was that, and I told him because I didn't invite him. He let out a loud, "Come on, what?" And Christine asked if I was serious. I told her yes, because I only invited her, didn't I? She said that I was being rude and unwelcoming to Simon after he took the time to drop what he was doing and come join us. But I frankly told her this wasn't what I planned. She got offended and said they're both one, and I should either pay for both of them or not pay at all. I told her this was not fair to both her and I, but she said no, this was unfair to Simon. I asked if he had money to pay, and he shook his head, no. I apologized and still stuck for paying for myself and Christine, but she refused to let me, saying I either pay for both of them or not pay at all. I asked if that is what she really wanted, and she nodded. I said, okay then, paid for myself, and left. Clearly, Christine had no money as well, and they had to wait for a friend to pay for them at the restaurant, and Christine was upset about that. She called me and said that I not only disrespected Simon and made him feel unwelcome, but I also bailed on them by only paying for myself and leaving them stuck in a horrible situation, begging a friend for help. She said she's hurt, Simon's hurt, and they expect an apology and the money their friend paid, since it's a debt they need to return now. I told her it was her doing for bringing an uninvited person with her, then insisting that I paid for both of them or not at all. She argued that I was trying to avoid responsibility and I should make it up to them if I care about our relationship. But I said it won't happen because I don't owe them anything. Things got worse between us. Now I'm thinking I might have caused this by not paying for both of them. Am I the a-hole? Now the top comments. Everyone sucks here. Everyone here is operating on assumptions, and none of it is cool. Your daughter should have asked about bringing the boyfriend, because she assumed you were paying, and frankly, so did you. You only stopped assuming you were paying for lunch when she brought someone, and it was someone you don't like. When the boyfriend arrived unexpectedly, you should have made it clear at the start that you weren't expecting this and can't pay for everyone. There is no universe where it's polite to say at the end of the meal, "Oh, I am paying for her but not you." You already said you don't like him, it's very clear. Just didn't want to pay for him and waited until the end of the meal to smugly tell him he's not good enough to get lunch from you. They were right in that either lunch is on you or it isn't. You are picking up the check or you're all paying for yourselves. It's pretty AF to do what you did. Not the a-hole. Bringing people to lunch dates who were not invited could also be considered quite rude. Expecting someone else to pay for that extra person without talking to them first is extremely rude. Not bringing any money because you actually take for granted that you can do that is rude. Your daughter and her boyfriend were entitled, rude, and are in this situation because they didn't expect you to put your foot down. Whenever I go out with my mom, I offer to pay my share. If she's driving me somewhere, I offer her gas money, cause I don't take her time and money for granted, nor should your daughter. Hardcore everyone sucks here. Daughter made a ridiculous assumption thinking it was okay to bring boyfriend along, who acted entitled AF, without discussing it first. And OP is petty and downright mean for leaving them in that situation. OP had no reason to assume boyfriend would be tagging along uninvited, and rightly so. Who does that? That's the point at which ground rules should have been set about who's paying for what. The kids are entitled brats for assuming beforehand that mom would pay for everything and not bringing money. But mom did not have to leave them in that crappy situation. You cover the bill and say, "You owe me," and they will never make the assumption that you're paying for anything ever again. Seriously, who leaves their daughter stuck with the bill they know she can't pay? That doesn't come close to the level of bringing an uninvited guest along.